Welcome back, everybody. It is time for another episode of In The Crosshairs, your definitive source for sports betting content and in-game analysis. I'm your host, Ali Melendez, back at it, and we are coming to you live from inside the Line Sniper studio to help you pick your weekly wagers and, of course, give you everything you need to bet smarter. Now, we have our expert team of analysts here to help you with just that. First up, we've got my man, Joey KNISH'S, is going to talk to us about some of what's going on in the world of futures betting. Our Octagon expert Dave Milhouse has the latest on the UFC for us, and of course, best bets for this weekend's UFC card. And today, Sam Dusenberry is going to give us some hot takes on bets to buy and what you should probably pass on. All that coming today on In The Crosshairs, brought to you by Line Sniper. And if you want even more of the best sports betting content around, you can find all of that on our YouTube channel. That is Line Sniper HQ on YouTube, so check us out there. But let's go ahead and get this episode started, and let's send it over to Mr. Joey KNISH'S to tell us a little bit about what's going on in the futures betting market. Now, Joey, so glad to have you back. How you feeling, man?
Ali, what's happening? Feeling a little better. Was under the weather early this week. Thankfully, don't got the Rona, but I'm back here feeling good now. Ready to go chop it up a little bit, talk some futures here with you.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, and I'm glad that you're here. Now, KNISH, I know you're a big fan of futures, and of course, you tend to have a pretty full portfolio of wagers, so I thought maybe you could let us in a little bit into what you're keeping in your portfolio and what bets you're feeling pretty comfortable about. Let us into the mind and, of course, the betting wallet of Mr. Joey KNISH.
I mean, first of all, we talked about it here with you on the show a few weeks ago. Rockets Western Conference was a buy for us. It was around 8-1 at that time. I got in. I thought they looked phenomenal game one. They're playing right now as we speak up in the second quarter. I love the position that the Rockets are in the Western Conference. You've seen Lakers lose game one. Clippers lost last night. You know, neither of those teams has looked phenomenal. They came back. The conference looks much more at post-corona, I guess, coming into this bubble. Houston was a team that looked great. You know, everybody's talking flip the switch in that. But the LA teams haven't looked full go since they've been back. Houston has, and that's even sans Westbrook. We talked about it that we didn't think Westbrook would be too much of a key loss here, even missing a few games. And they really haven't skipped a beat. That one, that is great. That was given out right here online, so we're in the crosshairs a few weeks ago, and then that's my favorite one in the portfolio, down to around 5-1, maybe a little less at some places. And I think if they take this series, you know, in a sweep or 4-1, that's going to keep crashing down as you see some of the falters with the LA teams. The other one we talked about over the summer was, you know, the Cubbies here. They've got out to a nice start. We got them 33-1 sitting in the portfolio. That number is not around, you know, any places anymore. It's trended down, you know, into the 15 to 20 range. They've gotten off to a great start. Team that, you know, has a lot of things going for it. I like the way they're hitting the ball. And again, in this shortened season, you know, was what we talked about. Buying those teams in the mid-tier that could turn around and, you know, get out to it. They've gotten the exact start we needed them to get out to. Get out of the gate hot, get some wins banked, and put yourself just in a position to make the playoffs. And when you're talking about 30-1 or higher, you just want those teams in the playoffs in the MLB. Give your chance of, you know, win a short series, get a couple of good games of pitching. That's all you need to do. So Rocks and Cubbies, a couple of nice ones we're sitting on in the folio.
The MLB still having games literally canceled left and right, and football still a couple of weeks away. Now, are there any futures you're interested in, you know, picking up or adding to your list? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, we'll hit both MLB and NBA again, of where, you know, the prices are right now. There's a team that I wanted to get on preseason and just was never able to find the right price. I was a little late to the party, and it was the San Diego Padres. They're a team, they got off to a little bit of a slow start here. You know, we're under 500 for a bit. Now they're out there trading, you know, some 35-1 World Series, 20-1 to win the NL. That's a team that I'm going to buy on right now. I was hoping you know, they would get off. They just went into a little bit of a rut. Now they've won a couple games here in a row. So if they keep rolling, this buying opportunity is going to be real short. But the Padres are a team. They've got what I would say is the league MVP so far in Fernando Tatis Jr. They're pitching, you know, Paddock and that hasn't been on point yet. The bullpen's had some issues. So I'm hoping that that's going to kind of regress back to the norm, and you'd see some of their pitching upgrade. I like a lot of what they've got going in the lineup, especially with Tatis being on an insane run. A couple of other nice pieces. You hope the pitching gets turned around. I especially if they keep rolling here, that this is probably as good as it's going to get. So I'm going to take some Padres right now. I'm looking around for some division futures as they're sitting around third or fourth right now in the division. Going to buy a little World Series in NL and hope they can keep it rolling. On the NBA side of things, a lot of futures have really deflated to the point where I think, the Blazers were a great buy a couple weeks ago, but that's gone. If there's one team that I'm going to keep center on right now as a team that I could see, it's Miami around 10-1 to win the East. You've seen a couple, again, Bucks lost game one. The Raptors strong, but that price is deflated. If there's a team at the price, and now I'm not going to say that Heat are going to win the East, but if we're talking about pricing, value, what's out there we want to buy right now, Heat are probably the deepest team in the Eastern Conference. They've handled the Pacers the first two games. Another, convincing win earlier today. They have more depth than any other team in the conference. They may not have the top five of a Milwaukee or a Toronto, but they can go 7, 8, 9, 10 deep with quality that the other teams can't. Could be a bit of a factor with this compressed schedule playing every other day. So Miami 10-1. If I'm going to buy a future in the NBA right now, Eastern Conference, that's the best one on the board.
Cool. Thank you so much, Joey. Now, Knish, I did want to get your thoughts on sort of where the futures lines are moving. So if you're seeing any lines, that's trending up or down, that change how you might feel on betting on them, what are your thoughts there?
I mean, we talked about it, a little bit in the first segment that the LA teams, the Clippers and the Lakers, they're just too short. I wouldn't touch either of those teams right now, especially the Lakers. Legitimately, and not to come on here and give a Skip Bayless. I think they're in trouble in this round one series with the Blazers, that they could legitimately be out in this series if they can't get the shooting right against Portland. Clippers, same. They could be down 0-2. They got the KP ejection in game one. They lost last night. The Mavericks are playing good ball. I'm not convinced that either of those teams wins their first round series, much less the Western Conference. So I wouldn't go near any Lakers or Clippers price right now. If anything, I'd be looking around, if either team wins, the next game that potentially come back on a little bit of a series fade, as I think the Mavericks and the Blazers are live in those series. So LA teams way short on the prices. Don't touch it. They've been out of form since the bubble came back. Leave LA alone.
All right, thanks. So
don't get me wrong. I like it. If I had the money, I'd live in LA, but I'm not touching any of the basketball.
Yeah. But you're saying do not believe the hype. The LA boys are not taking home a title this year. All right. Well, thank you, Knish, for letting us into your world of futures. We will definitely have you back on towards the end of the show for some fan questions and, of course, to give us your best bets, which is one of my favorite segments. But for now, we are going to take it over to the Octagon in the wake of last week's UFC 252. And we will, of course, bring in our combat sports expert, Dave Milhouse, to talk a little bit of UFC on ESPN. Now, Dave, good to see you. How you feeling? I know 252 didn't quite turn out perfect for your bets last week, so talk to me about that.
Hey, Ali. Doing well. Happy to be here. UFC 252. Ugly. It kind of went a little bit the way I thought. Cormier did get that early eye poke. It just didn't quite blind Stipe enough. Stipe looked good. Cormier looked like a shell of himself. I was way off on that coin flip. It was probably more like a minus 150 Stipe, to be fair. So I definitely whiffed on that. We couldn't get the takedowns on my best bet. 0 for 8 attempts. Ugh. But I'm ready to bounce back this week. We've got a really ugly card here, but we might just be able to find a winner for you.
Absolutely, Milhouse, and I'm hoping that we can make it a better week for you, but let's take a look at this card. Now, we've got the headliner of MUNHOZ versus EDGAR, but there's plenty of other fights, like we got St. Preux versus Manyfield, we've got Rodriguez and Sato, and we've got so on and so forth. So, Dave, give us your initial impressions on the card and any no-brainer winners here.
Well, there's 0 no-brainer winners. Except for that minus 1,500 you'll see on the list down there, but there's no point of even touching on that. But if we go to this main event, I think the line's a little bit high on MUNHOZ. The problem I have with this is Frankie Edgar's never fought at bantamweight. He's 38 years old, and now he's going to try to cut more weight than he thought he could cut when he was 33. So this doesn't really make any sense to me, but he knows he can't win a title at featherweight or lightweight, so one last shot at bantamweight. To me, this feels like a bit of a Hail Mary, but statistically speaking, He's got some of the best defense going, 68% striking defense. Not much gets through. He's got more reach, far more experience than MUNHOZ. He's a little bit bigger. But man, he's 38 and trying something new. None of his sample size is in bantamweight. So it's hard to say there's good value there, but I thought the line should be more like minus 200, sitting around minus 250 MUNHOZ. I don't want to call it a sucker's bet. MUNHOZ probably wins, but I don't like that line at all. I guess I would have to lean Frankie Edgar for a value play, but I don't think I want to touch that.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a weird card this week. But Dave, obviously you're the man with the inside info. And earlier in the week, you had sent us some lines that you were watching, and we've sort of been monitoring them and where they're sitting at. So Dave, talk to us about some of these lines. Are they still a good bet, or would you have to say maybe pass on these?
I can't find too many good bets on this card, and the problem is most of these guys are newcomers. We have no sample size for the stats. We have very limited footage. 1 or 0 UFC fights for many of them, so it's really hard to tell exactly what these people are made of yet. We need real sample size to be able to cap sports properly. One thing I'm looking at is Alonzo Menefield. He's around minus 130 right now against the veteran Ovin St. Preux. The thing with St. Preux is he starts so slow. He stands around and lets guys tee off on him, and then he gets it going, tires them out. He's almost like Homer Simpson, taking all those shots, waits for them to get tired, and then he comes through. I don't think that's a good idea against Menefield, who hits like an absolute truck. And Menefield has this tendency to gas out after about 5 minutes. He's only seen the second round once. Not the best cardio at all. So one thing I was thinking for this, I will probably bet on Menefield, and then I will look to get Ovin St. Preux at the end of round 1 live. Probably just get some free money there, as he'll be about plus 200 after getting teed off on in round 1, and you get a nice little 70-cent middle.
All right, so what about, sorry, go ahead, you go.
No, my bad. I was going to say the one bet I did make and I do like is Joe Solecki. You can get him around minus 130, minus 135, 140, depending where you shop. This line had a soft opener around this minus 145. Got reversed back to plus 100. Pinnacle opened it, and then it got booted right back to the minus 140. I think that's the right play here. Solecki's got good takedowns, great ground and pound. This guy stays busy, lands a lot of shots. Very limited sample size here again with his 1 UFC fight, but he was landing 83% of his significant strikes, which sounds incredible, but really when you're laying on top of a guy, it's not hard to miss. Or, I mean, it is hard to miss. So 83%, we can't really take it for, the normal 83% striking accuracy since it was all ground and pound. But if you can stay busy, get the takedowns, I don't see why you can't win this. Austin Hubbard's given up half the takedowns he's faced in his 4 UFC fights, granted against good wrestlers, but this is another good one. We got the small cage, good pressure. Austin Hubbard's a little bit better of a striker, probably has a little bit better cardio, but he's going to get taken down 3-4 times, and I think that's going to be enough for Joe Solecki to get it done. So I like him up to about minus 150. I thought the line should be minus 170, but I like to make sure we have at least a little bit of an edge if we're going to be betting a favorite.
And I'm so glad you mentioned this prelim matchup, because obviously I had my eyes on that as well. This is the matchup I was going to bring to your attention before you dove into it. So that's between Joe Solecki and Austin Hubbard. And obviously a lot of line movement, but still some potential there. Now, Milhouse, was there anything else to look for on this card? And, are there any sucker bets that might lead the folks at home astray? Or do you see any free money laying around? That's what I want to get into, man.
Oh, there's no real good bets on this card that I can spot because there's just no way to know. Very limited footage, like I said, very limited sample size of stats. The level of competition these people have fought to get to the UFC isn't quite UFC caliber, and it's basically just a guessing game. I don't want to pretend to know there's any free money. There is a little minus 1,500 on this card. I expect her to get it done relatively easily. Shanna Dobson's probably the worst UFC fighter. She's not even a UFC fighter anymore. She got cut, got called back for this fight, and she's never even stopped a UFC takedown. Her striking's nowhere near as good. I can't say lay minus 1,500, but there is an opportunity maybe to bet the under 1.5 in that Shanna Dobson fight because she probably will be out cold before the midway point of this fight. But again, minimal sample size here. I really don't know if minus 160 is a good line or if it just looks kind of appealing.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, not every card can be a winner, so that's that's something that's obviously super important to talk about on here as well. But thank you so much for those picks, Milhouse. Obviously, we'll be sure to bring you back next week for a little recap and run through for the next fight night, and we're going to bring you back in just a little bit to answer some fan questions and see your best bet. But before we get into our roundtable segment, we still need to take a trip up to Yonkers to talk to our man Sam Dusenberry about some, let's just say, questionable sports betting takes. So Sam, obviously so glad to have you on, buddy. How you doing?
What's going on? Glad to be here.
Woo! I'm loving it. So Sam, we got something a little different for you this week. We have some clips here from some of our friends in the wide world of sports. And Sam, we've got some hot takes that we sort of want you to give us your take on. Is it wild? Is it correct? Would you even listen to this advice at all? So, are you ready?
Bring them on. I love seeing other people's hot takes.
Oh my God, perfect. So we're going to play a little clip, Sam, and you're going to give us your take. First up, we're going to talk a little NBA. And of course, we're going to start with everyone's favorite Space Jam enthusiast and his take on the Lakers being unable to advance in the playoffs. Let's take a look.
I played in the NBA. I've been around for 30 years. There's a lot of guys who put up good numbers on bad teams. Like you said, the Lakers have not been out in the playoffs for X amount of years. He was getting numbers on those teams. Those do not count. He has got to be the third best player for the Lakers if they're going to advance. But let me tell you something. They're not going to advance.
Poor Chuck. He's grasping at straws here. Kyle Kuzma is who he's referencing about. LeBron came out a few weeks ago and talked about how he needs Kuzma to be that third guy. And there's a lot of people, Chuck included, who question whether Kyle Kuzma can be that guy. I don't think you could base it off of what happened in game one. He still had 14 points. Besides LeBron, he was the only one that was willing to take it to the cup and be aggressive. Anthony Davis out here chucking up threes and breaking all of them. So Kyle Kuzma, to me, has some aggression and showed some moxie and wanted to be that third guy. Chuck, instant reaction. He's been big on the Blazers because all of a sudden everyone is riding the Blazers. This is a team that went to the Western Conference Finals. It's no shock that they could give the Los Angeles Lakers some problems. So decent take, but I mean, he's really just stating the obvious. Kyle Kuzma is not a big-time player, but LeBron and all the Laker Nation just need him to give you a little bit of something, 15 to 20, help out Anthony Davis and LeBron James.
All right, thank you so much, Sam. Now, Sam, we got another one for you here. Now, this time we're going to move away from the NBA playoffs, and let's get to your feedback on some football. So Nick Wright, on First Things First, had a very little faith in Tom Brady this year. And Sam, we wanted to hear your thoughts, so check this out.
That's last night. I'm going to have to say under, unfortunately. Listen, we have seen in 2017, Tom Brady was the league MVP. In 2018, Tom Brady was a good quarterback. In 2019, he was below average. And I know everyone just wanted to blame everyone involved aside from Tom. I do not think all of a sudden that arrow starts pointing up. I think it's far more likely it continues on the trajectory that it's on. And so unfortunately for Tampa Bay, I think they're under. I think they're just under. I think they're an 8, potentially 9-win team, but I don't think they get to double-digit wins.
Wow. Everyone wants to be the guy that has to take, right? Like, who wants to bury Tom Brady first? Who wants to get the credit for being the first one to put that first shovel deep into the Tom Brady grave? And Nick Wright is, again, just trying to be that guy, trying to be the one with the take. There's no way you could look at this Tampa Bay revamped roster and not think they can win 10 games. I know the line is at 9.5. I'd smash that over because when you look at the defense, they've improved. They brought back Ndamukong Suh. Shaq Barrett is a monster, got him on the franchise tag. And then look at this offense. You're talking about Shady McCoy to catch the passes. He's going to fill that James White role that Tom Brady used to just kill teams to death with up in New England. You're looking at Godwin and Mike Evans, and they still got O.J. Howard that they could bring in Gronk. They fixed the offensive line by drafting some players and getting some free agents. How can this team not win 10 games? Or Bruce Arians, they went all in. So again, I understand somebody wants to be the first to be able to get right that Tom Brady is done. I just don't think it's this year. So 9.5 wins, I take that over. Nice try, Nick Wright. Maybe next year.
Damn, stick it to the man. Well, Sam, thank you so much for your takes on those. Obviously, always great to get a second opinion when it comes to placing your bets. And of course, we did want to get your bets on this week, Sam. And luckily, we've got a segment just for that. You know it, you love it. Now let's bring all three of these guys up for some final bets and of course, answer some questions from our fans at home. We've got Joey, Sam, and Milhouse all here. What's up? Welcome back. And guys, I've got some questions for you, so let's dive right into it. But quickly, as a reminder, if you guys have a questions at home for any of our analysts here about literally anything, just hit us up on social at Line Sniper HQ and we will get your question in front of these guys. But let's just get after it and let's start with our fan questions. Open up the old mailbox and see what we got. Now, Sam, we'll start with you, man. Your question is from Maddie, who asks, can the Rockets last long enough for Russell Westbrook to return, and will he be back strong or playing hurt in the second round?
Oh, Russie is coming back. He's out for game 2. He'll miss that. But, quite frankly, I don't think they need Russell to dispose of the Oklahoma City Thunder. But for that second round matchup with either the Blazers or the Lakers, they're definitely going to need Russ. James Harden is going to take this thing and put the whole squad on his back. He's got some role plays to help him out, PJ Tucker, Jeff Green. But when it comes right down to it, James Harden is the best player on that court when those two teams step on the floor. So for me, yes, the Rockets can get it done. They can hold it down until Russie gets back. But it's more important about they got the beard and Oklahoma City doesn't.
I mean, yeah, so far, obviously, Harden has been playing Superman, but I'm sure the Rockets and Rockets fans would love to have Westbrook back on the court. I know I would. I'm not even a huge Rocket fan, but I am a fan of him, so thanks, Sam. Now, Knish, let's move over to you and a question from Kevin from Vegas. What's up, Kevin? Kevin wants to get your take on the Minnesota Twins to take home a league pennant or just the whole World Series. What you think, Knish? They got a shot?
No, I mean, they absolutely got a shot. Right now, you look at it, they lead the American League in run differential. So, I mean, the lineup is crushing. They've got enough pitching to get there. Again, gun to my head right now in the division, I would lean Cleveland, to get there. But, hey, again, we talked about it earlier in the segment, all it takes is a chance to get in the playoffs. They got tons of talent all up and down the lineup. Hey, if you're sitting on a nice ticket from preseason, nothing wrong with that. Twins definitely got a shot. I think they'll make the playoffs. Best you can do there and get in.
Cool. Thank you, Knish. Now let's take it over to Dave Milhouse. And of course, Dave, Zach from Utah has a two-part question here for you, both about the heavyweight scene. Now, do you buy into the rumors that John Jones is going to be slotted in for Miocic's next opponent? And is Daniel Cormier actually retired, or is this retirement a situation that literally only lasts until someone offers him a big check? I got to know your thoughts on this.
I'll have to say Daniel Cormier is retired unless they throw a huge contract at him for a John Jones trilogy. I don't really see that happening. I can't see Cormier going back down to light heavyweight, and John Jones might not ever fight at light heavyweight again either. As far as John Jones fighting Stipe next, I think he fights for the heavyweight title next. Will Stipe still be the champion then? It's hard to say. They owe Francis Ngannou a title shot. I think Frankie probably puts that guy to sleep. So it's hard to say. I don't know, but John will definitely be fighting for that title, whoever's holding it.
All right, there you have it, the heavy-hitting analysis on the heavyweights from Mr. Dave Milhouse. So thank you so much for that, Dave. Now, before we wrap up here, there's, of course, one final segment that we cannot miss. I refuse it, and that is our best bets of the week. So every week, we get the absolute best bets from each of our analysts, and here, this time, we got to talk about bets no matter what. I'm talking any sport, any game, anything at all. I'm expecting Knish to maybe say something a little crazy. So let's start with you, Knish. Go ahead, take it away. What do you think? What is your best bet?
I'm going Champions League final this weekend. UEFA Champions League, Bayern versus PSG. I'm going with the dog here, Paris Saint-Germain here. They've got the right team and the right build-up to counter Bayern. If you look at Bayern's last couple of games, they've been way open to Lyon, way open to Barcelona. They've outscored those two, but they gave up a ton of chances in those games. I think PSG sits back, plays defense, hits them on the counter. There's some right around plus 240, plus 250, and 90. Going to take some plus 160 to lift the trophy as well. PSG this Sunday, UEFA Champions League final. Best bet of the weekend.
Okay, well, thank you, Knish. Now, Sam, you're next. What do you think the best bet is?
I'm going down to the bubble, and it's going down tonight. I think Orlando with Nikola Vucevic They got the over-under on his points at 22.5. He just dropped 35. Obviously, no Aaron Gordon. And you would expect the Bucks to be able to come back and bounce back and take care of business. I just think that's too low of a number for a guy that's an all-star player like Nikola Vucevic. So for me, I think he doesn't get you 35. He's not going to go off like that again. But I do think he could cross that 22.5 threshold. So I think you take the over on Nikola Vucevic points tonight.
Okay, Sam, I'd have to put some of my money down on that. Maybe, we'll see. But Milhouse, take us home, man. What is your best bet of the week?
Best bet of the week's the one we covered with Joe Solecki. It's the only bet I have locked in for the weekend pending, so it's got to be my best bet. Joe Solecki's going to get those takedowns, some top position, a little ground and pound, rough him up, and he's going to get his decision win.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens this weekend. I mean, obviously with that card, it's not the best, but we will talk about it next week and see what happens and where our head is at then. But of course, to wrap us up with a pretty bow for this week, well, those are our 3 bets of the week. Now, Sam, Milhouse, KNISH, thank you guys so much. And of course, thank you for all of your expert insight. Now, for all of you at home watching, hey, thanks for watching. But if you need to get those bets one more time, or you just wanted to hear Joey KNISH's gorgeous voice, whatever it is, we got you. Just head on over to our YouTube channel, Line Sniper HQ, and you can find everything sports betting right there. Now, for everyone joining us in the studio, my team, my crew, I love you guys. Once again, my name is Ali Melendez. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.